Hi, welcome to another episode of Straight Lions Talk. As usual, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions, and today we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions Week 3 loss to the Denver Broncos, and also their Week 4 matchup at Seattle. Last week, against the Denver Broncos, it came in, this show thought the Detroit Lions were a long shot to win, and it proved us right, finally, for once, that they were a long shot to win. They lost 24-12 to the Broncos to an aging Peyton Manning that looks like he can't throw the football over 40 yards. If he's lucky, on an arc. It's not a laser throw anymore. But the Detroit Lions look bad, guys. Everything looked terrible about them. Matthew Stafford didn't look good. The offensive line was horrendous. The best part of the whole night was probably T.J. Jones returning a punt. And other than that, the defense did play better. They were more consistent, but they still gave up the big play. So where do we stand? Let's talk about it for a little bit. Well, some issues we're having big time right now is the offensive line. Everyone wants to blame Matt Stafford. We're burning his jersey on the outside of the stadium, and he needs to go, and everything is Matt Stafford's fault. And I understand that, and we predicted he'd be a top 5 quarterback. And the only time he was a top 5 quarterback so far this year was Week 1, the first half against San Diego. And so far our predictions have been wrong. Nothing's been right. The Lions aren't good. I mean, we bought in full heart, the whole way we bought in on this show. We thought this was the deepest Lions team we'd ever seen, probably one of the more talented Lions teams we've ever seen. The receiving core was due to break out. We have a young, athletic offensive line, the second year of a system coming off an 11-5 season. We thought some things were going to, really come together this season, and we were going to have a very, very good season. And so far, it's not been even good. There hasn't been anything good to hang your hat on except the first half of the San Diego game. Other than that, the running game's a mess. The offensive line's a mess. The defense looks a mess. Matt Stafford looks like we've turned him into Alex Smith for all intent purposes. He only has one ball that's traveled over 20 yards this season. It's not good. Things are not good. But to dive a little deeper into that, let's talk about the offensive line for a minute. The offensive line was something on this show. We thought we'd see them get better and better and better, and out the gate we thought they'd be a lot better. And we saw them be better in the preseason. And now all of a sudden everything's a mess. It looks like one time we're running a run play and it's a pass play, and then the offensive line's running a pass play and we're trying to run the football. Guys are missing assignments. I think the scheme's a little too complicated for the youth of this offensive line, and I think it's a little outdated, I guess you could say. I don't understand a lot of the things that are going on there. You watch some of the video and you see some guys triple teaming one guy while 2 other guys come free. Obviously that's a missed assignment, but I don't see how Matt Stafford can control that. I understand he has certain calls he needs to make on the offensive line for protections, and maybe he's not doing a good job of that, but in some respect it has to fall back on the offensive lineman to make some of those adjustments too. There's certain calls where Stafford has called for a quick screen pass or switch to a run. Maybe the offensive line hasn't adjusted. I'm not trying to make excuses for Matt Stafford. I know his numbers look pretty decent at the end of the Denver game, but the fact of the matter is the offensive line's playing bad. It's just a fact. Look at the running game. You can't blame that on Matt Stafford. How is that his fault? The running game is, I think, only averaging like 2.8 yards a carry. It's terrible. It's the worst in the league. Our offense overall is worse in the league, and this is 2 years in a row. We've taken guys like Larry Warford and Riley Reif, who I'm not saying they were all pros, but look like they would be consistent and effective offensive linemen in the NFL. And all of a sudden now there's questions about why Riley Reif is terrible. He's rated one of the worst offensive linemen in the league. He gives up quarterback pressures. He gives up quarterback sacks, everything. And he wasn't that bad of a left tackle. I'm not saying he was the world's best, but I thought he was equally as good as Jeff Backus was when he was here. And now we've transformed him into just a low-level walk-on player. I don't understand it. Larry Warford is struggling to death in this offense, and neither one of those players had that problem with the previous regime and the previous offensive staff. The only time the problems have occurred are now, and also with Le'Veon Waddle. Waddle looked like the real deal when he first came in with Scott Linehan, and now all of a sudden he's having trouble too. So I don't get it. I think some adjustments need to be made, but Jim Caldwell assures us that there's nothing wrong with the offensive line and the team's close. That's another issue I'd like to get into with the Jim Caldwell stoic, I'm always this way, my demeanor never changes no matter if we're up 50 or down 50. Well, it needs to change now because we're 0-3 with a team that should be at least 2-1 as far as we're concerned. And that's easier said than done. I'm not saying Minnesota didn't play an excellent game against us, but we didn't show up on that game, and we got out physicaled, out hustled, out coached, out everything. And I think the same thing happened last week. That I never thought for a second we had a chance to win that game. It never looked like we had a chance to win that game. We weren't consistent on offense. We weren't consistent on defense. We gave up a big play before halftime with Darius Slay. Darius Slay was running his mouth all week. And can they just be quiet? You guys are an 0-2 football team. I'm going to have Peyton Manning foul the ball if I pick one off. Well, then pick one off. Then back it up. And I know it's different if he does pick one off. We're all probably talking something different here. But the fact of the matter is, you were schooled twice. Once against Owen Daniels and once against Demaryius Thomas. The big plays killed us this week. And Peyton Manning, you let Peyton Manning, that should have been a game where Matthew Stafford took that game from Peyton Manning and let him know that there's a new sheriff in town, and Matt Stafford's a better quarterback now than Peyton Manning is at this point in his career. I'm not saying he's better overall. I'm not saying his mind's not better. I'm just saying physically, Matthew Stafford should have been able to take over that game. But with a porous offensive line that gave up 28 quarterback hurries, 20 quarterback hits, 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 20 quarterback pressures, and 28 quarterback hurries. That's a terrible offensive line, guys. Stafford was one of the quickest people last week with getting the ball out of his hands. I think he did it in 1.8 seconds. That just shows you that we weren't even trying to throw the ball downfield. We've converted Matthew Stafford with this porous offensive line, this offensive system, into Alex Smith. All he does is check things down, throw screen passes, throw bubble screens. That's all this offense is. We try to run occasionally, I think, just to say we ran. I think we ran 28 times for 28 yards. That's garbage. Joyke Bell looks terrible. He's out this week. It was just confirmed yesterday. I understand Brandon Pettigrew is not there, but I can't believe Brandon Pettigrew is such a big factor on the offensive line that the Lions cannot consistently do anything offensively without Brandon Pettigrew. He caught like 5 balls last week. I understand he's a great blocker. But the fact of the matter is the offensive line is terrible. And with a bad offensive line comes a bad offense. And that comes right back to Jim Washburn. Son, is he the problem in the offensive line? I understand his dad was the offensive lineman last year, and the line wasn't great, but it was a lot better than it is right now. And another factor is Joe Lombardi. Is Joe Lombardi the problem? I don't understand this. Jim Caldwell assures us it's not Joe Lombardi. Jim Caldwell, we asked on this show, does Joe Lombardi need to go up to the box and get a better vantage point? Is the information he's getting from his assistants that work under him bad information? I don't get it. We're not even trying to change anything, and I understand Jim Caldwell's not trying to create chaos within the organization and see the head. If you see your general panicking, then maybe your soldiers will panic. I understand that philosophy. The man's a very smart man. He's very well read. I just don't understand his philosophy on not changing anything. I'm not saying we need to ship Joe Lombardi out, but why can't we make simple changes to put Joe Lombardi maybe up in the box to get a better vantage point that his eye can see, where he's not taking it from a tablet or some other situation, but maybe he can see what they're doing before the snap and maybe relay it to Stafford to maybe check off the play. I think that would be the right step, the first step maybe in this maturation process of trying to get the offense back on track. Do something. We're going to go 0-4. We're not going to win in Seattle. We're 0-3 right now, and then we have Arizona coming in. We're probably going to be 0-5. And, okay, I guess technically we could win our next 11 and be 11-5. That would require beating Green Bay in Green Bay and also beating Green Bay twice and beating a Kansas City team that has a lot better defense than people are giving it credit for, even though Green Bay ripped them last week. In London, which is a game we barely won last week, and it's not like we're really all that great on the road in general anyway. So, a game we barely won last year on the road. So, I don't understand what's going on. I would love to put my fingerprint on it. It seems like the team is taking on too much of Jim Caldwell's personality, when last year that was a positive due to all the chaos and the tough guy acts that were going on under the Schwartz regime. So, I think they put on too much of Jim Caldwell's face, where he's always just this way and he's always calm, where the team they look flat all the time. They never get excited over any play, any sack, anything. They just kind of walk around just going through the motions, and I think that's something that maybe needs to be addressed. I mean, when is the talk going to be? Are we going to get our third Jim in a row? When's it going to be fire Jim to hire Jim? And when I say the Jim, I mean Jim Harbaugh. When's that talk going to start? Hey, give Jim Harbaugh everything he wants. Fire Mayhew. Fire Caldwell. Fire the whole front office. Fire the whole coaching staff. And let's bring Jim Harbaugh and give him anything. Give him $20 million will be the talk. Get double his salary. Give him the organization. Give him whatever you want. That will be the talk when we go 0-5. And legitimately, I think we're going to go 0-5. That's what this show thinks, and this show has been wrong. It's been wrong. It's been so wrong. We predicted Matt Stafford would be a top 5 quarterback. That does not look like that's going to happen. We thought the Lions would be probably 11-5, 10-6. That's not going to happen. We're going to have our first 5 losses already in the first 5 games, and the season's going to be over. I just don't understand where Caldwell's going with this team. I don't know what direction he's trying to take this team in right now. I think the team has lost confidence in Jim Caldwell. I think you can see it on his face. I know you can see the frustration on Matthew Stafford's face. Like, what the heck are we doing? I mean, everyone's had that boss that you don't trust. When he tells you to do something, you're like, why are we doing it this way? This is so stupid. And I understand everyone has a better idea than everybody else all the time. But the fact of the matter is we've all worked for a boss, or we've all known someone that tells you to do something and you know it's wrong and you know it's not going to work. And I think that's the situation Matt Stafford's in with Joe Lombardi. I think he said the play comes in, I think he maybe cocks his head and like, are you kidding me? We're going to run that play? And I think that's a lot of the problem. I don't think Matt Stafford trusts Joe Lombardi at this point, where it was something I thought he looked like he did in the preseason. And I think he's lost confidence in Joe Lombardi, and I think the offense in a general has lost confidence in Joe Lombardi. I mean, we have Calvin Johnson, which we on this show wanted to trade Calvin Johnson, and what has Calvin Johnson done to make a difference in any of those games? Absolutely nothing. They double-team him, they do all this fancy stuff, and no one's open. So I don't understand the point of having a $20 million player. You can say, hey, Matt Stafford's making $20 million this year, next year, and the year after, or whatever. Well, guess what, guys? If you want to get rid of Matthew Stafford, okay, let's do it. Let's get rid of him. Now you tell me who we should get. So that's the point we're trying to make on this show. I think Matthew Stafford needs to be better. I'll totally agree. And I'm not saying he doesn't. We thought he would be better. The preseason showed he would be better. The offensive line was better in the preseason. Again, we all understand it's vanilla defenses in the preseason and nothing matters in the preseason. But the fact of the matter is they looked like a very good team. They carried that preseason momentum into the first half of the San Diego game, and after that, we were out-coached. They figured ways to come around that offensive line. They figured out the holes. They figured out some of the angles and some of the weak points we had, and they attacked it. San Diego did. And what happened after that? Minnesota copied it. What happened after that? Minnesota copied it. All Minnesota and San Diego. Yeah, Minnesota, San Diego, and Denver did blitz, blitz, blitz. DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller were on Stafford the whole game. It was ridiculous. I couldn't even believe Lucas started that game when Larry Waddle was healthy after how bad Lucas played the week before. This coaching staff I think, is outsmarting themselves, and it's not going to go well for the Lions the rest of the year. I think the team's going to lose confidence. From what started off to be such a high, I bought in 100%, and I know all you guys did too. You can say you did. You can say I had my reservations. You can say whatever. But I know you bought in. Everyone bought in. I bought in. The show bought in. Everyone bought in. And they're a bad football team. They look bad. They're playing bad. The defense doesn't look the same, and I understand we lost Sue, but that has nothing to do with it. Sue's defense in Miami last week got ripped. He had like 5 tackles all year. He is not a difference maker right now for the Miami Dolphins. It was a mistake for him to leave. I think he's feeling that, but he made a ton more money. It was money we couldn't pay and money we shouldn't have paid no matter what. Even if we had the money, it was dumb to even try to pay that money. And look at Miami. They're talking about firing Joe Philbin now. Or if they're going to fire the defensive coordinator. They had what sounds like almost an all-out brawl closed-door meeting in Miami because Sue doesn't like the defense. He's not doing the right defensive calls. And I'm glad that headache's gone. Very talented player, extremely talented. But this regime has done a bad job in the sense of trying to address those situations. They didn't get any insurance they had Aaron Donald staring him right in the face. They took Eric Ebron. Now, Eric Ebron stepped up this year, and he looks a lot better, like a lot more of a, what could be potentially a top 5, top 10 tight end in the league. He looks that part, and he's playing a lot better this season. So, that may justify itself. But the fact of the matter is that was a position that could have been handled right there. And the maturation process of Aaron Donald was huge. This guy becoming one of the best defensive tackles in the league. I know no one saw it coming this fast, but the fact of the matter is he projected to do that, and we didn't take him. Whether it was Sue promising he was going to sign, and the Lions had no worries because they seemed pretty calm and cool about it until it happened, and they seemed all shocked and didn't have a backup plan, and Mayhew admitted to it. That's just terrible preparation. I can't believe they didn't have a plan B. The only plan B was when someone came down, I think we can get Haloti Ngata. Hey, that's a good idea. Well, he's played okay, but I think he would have been a better piece next to Sue than trying to replace Sue. And he's not even running the same defensive set as they were last year. But I guess to complement the defense did play better. We took Stephen Tulloch off the field, thank God, on third downs. He only plays about half the snaps now. But I can't believe it took this long to make that change. That was something that should have happened after the Jacksonville game, was to pull Stephen Tulloch off the field on passing situations. That guy is terrible in coverage. But overall, I thought the defense played a lot better and they were more consistent. They held the running game down. Neither teams could run the football. But the fact of the matter is the passing game, against a weak-armed Peyton Manning, we couldn't even get pressure on him. And their offensive line is struggling to death with their new blocking scheme. And we couldn't figure a way to get pressure on Manning. So I just think it's going to be a long season. I don't like this week's chances. Some other information that came out was Golden Tate said that a lot of the teams are calling out the Lions' offensive plays. I think generally most teams have an idea what teams are going to do, and they can recognize formations a lot. But we're not doing a good job. I mean, we said this before on some other shows, and I don't understand why we don't come out in the same formation sets a lot of time. You've seen Green Bay do it, and they run multiple plays off that one formation. We never do that. We have just select formations we use to do certain things. We change it up all the time. If we're going shotgun and 3 wides and a running back in the backfield, I don't know why we don't do that and run multiple plays off it. We don't. We switch to that, then we go 5 wide. Then we switch to that, then we go I formation. I don't understand what the offensive system is. I understand what Golden Tate's saying, but also in the same respect, is Golden Tate going to his coaches and saying, hey, they know what we're doing, let's change something here? I think some of the players need to have a bigger voice with the coaching staff, especially Stafford. He maybe needs to tell Lombardi what's what, whether right or wrong. But if you're going to fall on the sword, fall on it yourself, Matthew. If you're not liking the offensive calls or the offensive plays, you need to say something to Lombardi on the sideline. Maybe you guys need to get into it hot and heavy like the way Brady does. I just don't understand the fall of this team just because we lost Sue. We didn't really lose any key players other than him. Ezekiel Ansah hasn't played as well as we'd hoped. But the fact of the matter is the Patriots lost huge guys on their team. They lost Darrelle Revis, they lost Brandon Browning, they lost Vince Wilfork. So what they do, they're one of the best teams in the league. Again, I understand they have Tom Brady, and we don't have Tom Brady. But the fact of the matter is they are always on the cutting edge of innovation all the time, whether it's running their system. Oh, we were usually run a 3-4 or 4-3 or 3-4. Oh, we don't have the personnel to do it. We're going to run a 4-3 this year. And then some games we're going to run 3-4. We're going to be a little bit scheme diversified in the fact that we're going to do what's best against whatever team's weakness is. Okay, that's a great idea. It works. So why aren't the Lions copying it? And they've brought into the NFL this fact that you don't need a big-time running back. Just grab Deion Lewis off the street and turn him into an all-pro. Grab Stephen Ridley in the 4th round and make him an all-everything. Grab Shane Vereen in the 6th round and make him an all-everything. Get Garrett Blunt off the scrap heap and make him all-everything. Again, I understand you have Tom Brady, but Tom Brady doesn't make Julian Edelman a productive receiver. Well, I mean, he does, but he doesn't make him look like he's an all-pro receiver, the guy that was a quarterback that wasn't even a receiver coming out of college. I just want to bang my head against the wall watching the Patriots with their new stuff they're doing now is they're bringing certain offensive linemen in on certain plays, which they're setting it up for something else. But the fact of the matter is, are they changing the league again? Are they changing the league in the fact that instead of oh, this team can't play against the pass, so all we're going to do is pass. Now you see teams doing that, but now they're bringing offensive linemen in and keep in different situations, whether it's running, whether it's for certain plays, they kind of just swap them out, and they're all part of the rotation now. Where before, you have a rotation on the defensive line, now they're developing a rotation on the offensive line. Again, always pushing the envelope. That's the New England Patriots. And what are the Detroit Lions? Staying status quo. We have a coach that's supposed to be stoic, was the whole reason we hired him. And one of the big reasons we hired him was because Tony Dungy called 18,000 times to say that, hey, you need to hire this guy. He's the right guy for the job. And then they decided to hire him because Tony Dungy, some sort of NFL god for winning one Super Bowl and having a quarterback in his prime that they should have won 12 Super Bowls, and a Tampa Bay team he built with his Tampa 2 defense that was perfect, that could not get them over the hump until John Gruden got there. Probably missed the Super Bowl there, 1 or 2. I think he missed maybe 3 or 4 in Indianapolis, and I understand it's hard to get there, but I think they were the best team in the league a number of years with Edgerrin James and all these other guys. They were a top team, and Tony Dungy couldn't get them over the hump, and I think Jim Caldwell is not to Tony Dungy's coaching level, and now he's our coach. And I understand he took the Colts to a Super Bowl. That's great, but after that, they fell flat on their face, and that's kind of been Caldwell's MO his whole coaching career. Great out the gate, not so great as the time goes on when he's with an organization or a college team or whatever he's with. I guess with that said, we're going to move on to Seattle. This is going to be a bad loss. Seattle has one of the best pass rushes in the league. We don't play well on the West Coast. They just shut the Bears out 26-0. This is going to be a bad loss, guys. Russell Wilson is going to run all over the Detroit Lions. It's going to be ugly. I don't think Marshawn Lynch is going to play, but I don't think he's going to need to play. They're playing at Seattle, which is one of the toughest places. No, it's not one of the toughest. It's the toughest place right now in the NFL to play. It's the loudest. The weather could be crappy. And I mean crappy, maybe not so much cold as so much rain, because it usually rains a lot in Seattle, as we all know. The Lions are a terrible West Coast team, as we all know, so this isn't going to go well. The Seahawks got Cam Chancellor back, so that's only kudos to them. You could tell last week it made all the difference in their secondary, just having the presence of Cam Chancellor there. The Bears couldn't do anything offensively. I mean, in the NFL, you can't even kick a field goal. Are you kidding me? So I honestly think it's going to be a very similar game. I don't think we're going to be able to do much. Chancellor's back. They have one of the best pass rushes without blitzing in the NFL. I think it's number 1, actually. When bringing 4 people, they can get to the quarterback better than any team. And our offensive line's a joke. We're going to play Zach Zenner a lot more this week, which, whatever, who cares? I would rather have him in there right now than Joyce Bell anyway. So, well, I guess we'll see how he does. You're going to see Amir Abdul will be the feature back. I don't think that's going to go very well. We're going to see a lot of screens. We're going to see a lot of bubble screens, a lot of slant passes. This isn't going to be a win. We're going to lose this game. The Detroit Lions will lose this game. I can see it being 34-0, 34-10. I don't think it's going to be close. I don't think it's ever going to feel close. I think we're going to be embarrassed on Monday Night Football. Chris Collinsworth last week was all but laughing at us at the end of the game when we wouldn't throw the ball in the end zone on the final drive. He was all but dogging the Lions organization as a whole. I mean, this is an organization over the last 55 years that does not and has never in the last 55 years had back-to-back 10-game winning seasons, and we've had 1 playoff win in the last 24 years. That's the facts. That is the facts. We've made 2 playoff appearances in that time. This isn't a good football team, and the talent's there, but I think the team's quit on the coaching staff right now. I don't see how they're going to resurrect this. I don't see a dominant performance by the defense. Even with Levy back, I think it's going to help, but overall, Seattle plays really, really well at home. They gave Green Bay a game. I mean, everyone acts like Green Bay dominated them. Seattle was right there in the end in that game. They kind of blew it themselves. If they had Cam Chancellor, I think that game's a different game. He's that big of a difference maker in the secondary for him. He's such a key part of what they want to do. if I'm at a loss for words, it's because I am. This is hard to do when you see such a bad Lions team. Offensively, they're a joke, and I don't think it's going to get better this week. I think the Lions are going to start 0-4 to start the season. I don't see a great game from Stafford. I could see it being one of his worst, and this could be the tipping point of maybe some changes happening with the Lions. Maybe Lombardi, they make him go to the box. Maybe Caldwell, in a statement, said that he didn't think there was a problem with Joe Lombardi being on the sideline, and he would not go to the box. Are there going to be coaching changes? We're saying by week 5 there'll be a fire Jim to hire Jim campaign going out. Where we'll, Jim Harbaugh will be the big name to go. He won't leave Michigan unless we give him half the organization and make it such an enticing deal that he wants to leave. And I don't think he's going to leave Michigan. I would love it if he did. I wanted him a few years ago when he went to San Francisco. So I'm at a loss for words. I don't see this being a great game. I don't see the offense improving. The defense was a good plus last week when it improved. Maybe we can hold them down a little bit with the return of DeAndre Levy, which is going to be huge, but I don't know how healthy he's going to be. I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see. This show does not believe that the Detroit Lions will win this game. I think we'll maybe be the only 0-4 football team in the league this week, so we'll find out. It could be us in Jacksonville. And you know what? At that point, some changes need to happen because things aren't working. Whether it's have a big fire sale and trade some guys. Maybe Calvin Johnson needs to go. Maybe this is the time to trade him during the season. Give him to a team maybe like Arizona or New England that maybe wants to make that push. New England seems to be making a ton of trades this offseason. It seems like they're all in to make one final run. Maybe Calvin Johnson goes to New England. How huge would that be? I think the value was higher for him this offseason. We wanted them to trade Calvin Johnson for Amari Cooper. He's not a difference maker. He won't be a difference maker in this game. He doesn't attack downfield anymore. His yards per catch are back. Justin Rogers wrote a great piece on the Lions' Martin Mayhew on some things that maybe need to be addressed in the front office too. I recommend all of you guys to read it. Justin Rogers from MLive. It's a great piece. And he points out some pretty good facts about the Lions and some of the things they've done organizationally that has kind of blown up in their face. You see the Packers building their team through the draft, and the Lions were going that way. I mean, Mayhew's draft record hasn't been bad. He's found some gems. He's lost some first and second round picks, and that's been the reason we're struggling at this point. Right now, the way it looks, we are not consistent on offense, and we're not consistent on defense. And defensively, I thought we had more depth there, and like we talked about before, they needed to be more playing as a team and know all their assignments and do their job to have optimum success, just to be a very good defense. I never thought they'd be a great defense this year, but I did project the offense. We thought the offense with the new additions on the offensive line and the second year in the system, we thought the offense would be a lot better, but they're not. And there's big problems. There's big problems that won't be fixed just with this week. Even with the extra days, it's not all of a sudden going to be, as Jim Caldwell is trying to describe in the media, how close the Lions are to success. I would love to be wrong. I'd love for us to beat Seattle at Seattle. I'd love for us to go next week when Arizona comes in and just slaughter Arizona. Is probably the best team in football right now. I'd love for us the next week to go to Chicago, have Chicago come in and beat them. I'd love to go to London and beat Kansas City, then come home the next week and beat Green Bay. That's a pretty tough matchup. I mean, right now I'm not feeling 100% confident about beating the Bears, if you want to know the 100% truth. I think that's going to be a really close game. I think they have a better coach than we do. The only saving grace is they got rid of two of their best defensive players, and maybe Jay Cutler will be there, maybe he won't. That really doesn't matter, but this is a bad football team, guys, and I don't think they're bad because of talent. I think they're bad because of the leadership they're getting, maybe from the coaching staff, is being a little bit too smart. They seem to think there's nothing wrong with the scheme. I kind of at a loss for words. It's not the way I predicted this to go. Every week I sit here and watch and rewatch the games, and there's nothing good to report. There's nothing we're doing well. Like, hey, this is close. This looks good. No, Stafford was under duress all week last week. Now we're burning jerseys. Careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. I can't believe there's not a coach or someone with any vision that cannot make Matthew Stafford a productive quarterback in this league. I know Jim Caldwell's supposed to be some kind of quarterback whisperer. I don't know how he gets credit for making Peyton Manning good, but whatever. I mean, but I understand what he did for Joe Flacco in the Ravens' run to the Super Bowl. Yeah, the offense was hot. They were a-clicking when he got in there. But then again, is this something that was to that effect? I mean, Jim Caldwell saw this happen before in Baltimore, so why is he not making changes? Baltimore struggled and struggled and struggled with Cam Cameron as the offensive coordinator. They fire Cam Cameron mid-season, bring Caldwell into the offensive coordinator's position, and the offense explodes under Caldwell. Joe Flacco looked like a different quarterback. He didn't look frustrated like Stafford does right now. I mean, that's a good reference. Go back and look at that. Flacco was frustrated as all heck that season. The whole offense was struggling. The offensive line was struggling. Caldwell comes in, and everything seems to come together. They make the run to the Super Bowl. They're one of the highest scoring teams. Those last 6-8 weeks, they were one of the highest scoring teams, and exploding plays all over the field. But I mean, that got Caldwell the job for Detroit. If not, he was just a quarterbacks coach that was probably not going to be another head coach ever again. So, and then the next year when Caldwell was there, the offense struggled immensely under Caldwell. So, is Caldwell trying to be too conservative? I don't know the answers. All we can do is watch, and we'll come up with some more facts about where we think the Lions are going and what direction it's heading, but it does not look like it's heading in a positive direction. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. Please tune in next week. We'll be talking about the Seattle Seahawks game and the upcoming game against Arizona. Let's all hope the Lions can pull off a victory, but this week we do not think that's going to happen. We see this game being Seattle 34, Detroit 10. All right, you guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.